the abandoned well in the village. On a gloomy evening, as dark clouds blanketed the sky, a small village lay hidden deep in the mountains, surrounded by dense forests. The villagers lived mainly on agriculture, leading a peaceful yet impoverished life. One eerie feature of this village was an ancient well, isolated at the village's edge, desolate and ominous, sending shivers down the spine of anyone who passed by. This well had been abandoned for years, as no one dared to approach it due to the ghostly stories passed down through generations. The elderly spoke of an evil spirit residing within the well, once the victim of a blood-soaked ritual long ago. The story of the well dated back to an ancient time when the village was still prosperous. Back then, the villagers lived in harmony, growing rice and cultivating crops. However, an inexplicable misfortune befell them. Season after season, their harvests worsened, the fields turned barren, and the well's water gradually dried up, leaving the villagers without a clean water source. One day, a mysterious monk arrived, claiming he knew the solution. He told the villagers that to save their land, they needed to perform an ancient ritual, a sacrificial offering. According to him, only through this act would the gods restore prosperity and bring water back to the land. At first, the villagers dismissed his words as superstition, but their desperation grew. Eventually, a young woman named Lan, the daughter of a poor family, volunteered to be the sacrifice to save her people. On the day of the ritual, the sky was thick with mist. The villagers gathered around the ancient well, their faces pale with unease. As the monk chanted in an unknown tongue, a chilling atmosphere enveloped the crowd. Lan was led to the well, and as she was pushed over the edge, a piercing scream echoed from its depths, an inhuman, blood-curdling wail. Then, silence. From that day on, the well was no longer a source of water, but a cursed place. The sacrifice had not brought salvation. Instead, the fields continued to wither. Trees died, and those who wandered near the well claimed to hear sorrowful cries rising from the earth. Years passed, and the well remained untouched. The villagers told tales of strange happenings. On some nights, when the wind howled through the forest, ghostly whispers drifted from the well. Some swore they saw a dim glow emanating from its depths, as though an unseen figure stood at the bottom, watching with glowing eyes. One of the most terrifying stories involved a group of reckless young men who sought to prove the legends false. One night, they decided to approach the well, armed with lanterns and a rope. As they neared, an unnatural coldness gripped the air. Among them, a man named Min, trembling with fear yet determined, volunteered to climb down. As Min lowered himself, his feet barely touched the bottom when a sudden force yanked him deeper. His terrified screams rang out, only to be drowned by maniacal laughter erupting from the well's depths. Then, silence once more. Min never returned. A week later, his body was discovered at the bottom of the well, his eyes wide open in horror, his lips slightly parted as if trying to speak, but unable to. The abandoned well haunted the villagers for generations. At night, many were awakened by the sound of knocking on their doors, followed by a distant, sorrowful voice calling their names. Those who dared to open their doors found nothing but an eerie emptiness, with the well standing silently in the distance. Despite the passing years, fear of the well never faded. Then, one fateful evening, a traveler named Hung arrived at the village during a heavy storm. He heard the chilling legends and, unlike the villagers, was determined to uncover the truth. That very night, Hung ventured alone to the well. As he stepped closer, the air grew dense and a thick fog surrounded him. Staring down into the abyss, he felt something watching him. Though the well had long dried up, he swore he heard the gentle lapping of water against its stone walls. A strange heaviness filled his chest, making it difficult to breathe. Then, from the depths, a whisper floated up. "Save me." Hung's heart pounded as he saw a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, its eyes gleaming unnaturally. A sudden dizziness overwhelmed him, and for a moment the world around him seemed to fade into nothingness. Panicked, Hung tried to flee, but his legs felt as if unseen hands were grasping at them, dragging him back. The next morning, Hung was nowhere to be found. The villagers later claimed that on stormy nights, faint footsteps could be heard near the well, as though Hung's spirit still lingered, forever trapped in its cursed grasp. Many villagers reported an overwhelming feeling of being watched whenever they walked past the well, even in broad daylight. Some swore they felt cold fingers brushing against their skin, a sensation so vivid that it sent chills down their spines. Others described hearing whispers carried by the wind, voices that called out in a hushed, almost pleading tone, sometimes using the names of those who passed by. An elderly woman named Ba once recounted an experience she had as a child. One evening, while playing with her friends near the outskirts of the village, she heard someone softly calling her name. Assuming it was her mother, she turned around but saw no one. The voice called again, this time closer. When she looked towards the well, she saw a pale hand reaching out from the darkness, fingers twitching as if beckoning her to come closer. She ran home, screaming. That night, she developed a high fever and spent days in delirium, mumbling about the woman in the well who wanted to take her away. She survived, but she never dared to go near the well again. The story of the abandoned well remains an unsolved mystery. Though no one dares approach, the well endures, standing as a silent witness to the horrors that took place there. The villagers speak in hushed tones, warning each other never to venture near, for they know some spirits never leave and some curses are never broken.